everyone. Happy New Year. I cannot believe we are officially into the second week of 2025 already. It's crazy. But I'm so excited to be here today with Catherine Ann as we kick off a new series for the podcast in which we're going to be coming together once a month to deliver a discussion around a particular theme. So each month, Catherine is going to be going into the Akashic Records to understand the guidance that we as a collective most need to support our individual and collective evolution. So, Catherine, I am going to turn this over to you to kick us off and get us started, and we will dive right in.
Great. Happy New Year, everyone. So I went into the records and asked them, what is the theme that most serves us as we start off in 2025? So whether or not this is the theme for the entire year or just to get us started for the next few months, what is it that Lindsay and I can most benefit in talking about? And so the theme they gave me was at first a little jarring. And they even said to me, like, we can feel that you're uncomfortable by this. And so they gave me two words, belligerence and sanity. Neither of those words felt super comfortable to me at first. And so as I sat with them, they said, can you feel the discomfort in the word belligerence? And how belligerence is a resonance or a frequency that is very available in the collective right now. And on the other side, can you feel the comfort in the word sanity in the sense of balance, peace, and harmony? What I did was I actually went and looked up the root of both of those words to see if I could get a little bit additional guidance, and that helped me even further understand what it was that Spirit really wanted us to dive into, which is belligerence comes from Latin terms that are related to waging war. So the term belligerence literally comes from Latin words that mean waging war. And I feel like that is a dominant conversation in our collective right now, this idea of war and looking at it not only in a global sense, but in the acts of our local environment and then within us. And then sanity actually derives from the Latin word for health. That made me feel a little bit more like I got it a little bit more because it's about, well, there's so many different angles to this, but like, how does waging war impact your health? How does waging war internally in your internal dialogue, even if it's negative self-talk, impact your health? How does waging war with others impact the health of the relationships? And then, of course, on a global sense, waging war and just the life and health and well-being of society. So these are the theme that, or this is the theme that I was given, belligerence versus sanity. And it really does follow with the collective message that I was given in general for 2025, which was be still and know thyself. And that to me really speaks to in those moments when you may have that impulsive drive of anger or self-righteousness or judgment, or you want to lash out, can you be still and really know where's your peace? How does this action I want to take, this conversation I want to have, how does that support my peace? And I feel like this is going to be a bigger conversation that we're going to be looking at. Astrologically, January 6th, Mars just retrograded back into Cancer. It's a very sensitive placement. It's a placement where we get our feelings hurt very easily. And we're retrograding back into it. So it's going to echo themes that happened in fall of 2024. But now we're back looking at it again. And could we be too quick with the sword, with the tongue lashing, with the cutting people off? Because we're hyper sensitive right now. And in that global sense, on our leaders, what actions could they potentially take that are an overreaction or a cutting off what's that phrase, like cutting off your nose to spite your face? Like what where where is that belligerent energy where you're actually cutting off your nose to spite your face? And
Yes.
so
And I think as you're saying this, one of the things I want to bring attention to is this mirror principle, right? I think it's really important for people to understand that whatever is happening in the macrocosm is simply a reflection of what is happening in our inner worlds. We are a microcosm of the macrocosm, which is why people say be the change you want to see in the world. It's a beautiful saying and it's very cliche. And I don't always think that people understand why the saying exists. And it's because we literally have to heal ourselves in order to support shifting the vibration on the planet to actually heal humanity. And so when everything around you or outside of you feels out of your control, feels belligerent, your best bet is to always take that within yourself because you always have control over you doing your own work, you taking responsibility for your own wounding, for your own healing, and showing up differently. Where there is disharmony out in the world, there is likely places within yourself that you are out of harmony. And so, to your point, we can really look at when we're feeling belligerent within ourselves, we are clearly activated or triggered by some wound that we hold. And the best thing that we can do is find our own sense of safety, security, and sanity within ourselves and come back to that place of peace. But having processes to actually arrive at that peacefulness really requires self honesty, people being willing to stop the shame, blame, victim game, take themselves out of that, and really look at how is this happening for me, not to me.
yes, very much so. And I would say, in addition, the value of having people in your life that can support you in that process. So, either having somebody that teaches you practices for inner reflection, for diving deep, for processing your emotions, and also having people that, like you and I do all the time, I'll share an insight I gathered, a processing I did, and then you'll give me that next step further, right? That, yeah, yes. And did you see this? Did you look at this? And then go back and dive in deeper. And I feel like that's where it's really valuable to have a network, whether it's through any of the different many modalities that we all love, right? I love the astrology and the tarot and the Akashic records and channeling. You do the hand analysis and the coaching and the breath work. Whatever modality we have can be a gateway into this inner exploration. And then having that ability to bounce it off people, or to, even if you don't have somebody specifically in your life like that, to have good reference material, teachers, books that you resonate with that can help you. I feel like that they're saying it helps calm the fire of the
Mhm.
belligerent, right? So you're really triggered about something, having that ability to go sit, be still, dive into whatever modality you have that helps you connect with spirit, connect with a like-minded person, or go to your teacher or to another practitioner to say, hey, I need support in this. I can feel that I'm not getting to the root of this, but I have something that's coming up to be released. That all of that work supports the sanity and the peace.
Yeah. And because you're so right, because one of the things that I feel like has been a big part of my own journey has been how my thoughts, how my own belligerence, how where I've waged war on myself, I think has really come from my own negative self talk and where I have punished myself, where I've blamed myself, where I've beaten myself to a pulp over the years. I feel like I was someone that always thought, the pathway to self-improvement was by being really hard on myself. Like if I could just be hard enough on myself, that was going to be the catalyst for me to grow more. And what I've learned is the opposite was true. I didn't actually get very far by punishing myself. I actually got much further by learning systems and processes for how to have compassion for myself, for how to love myself more deeply, to, learn how to process my emotions. This is why I'm so passionate about breath work and the Divine Family program that one-on-one coaching program that I teach, because that program taught me how to process my emotions, how to make sense and how to make meaning from my pain and to help me heal my wounds so that I could create a different future. And what I learned in that process is we actually have a lot of control over this. We have so much power in what we decide to create in our life. We are so powerful that we can keep ourselves in those chains and in bondage and in our respective cages, or we can be so powerful that we create the life of our dreams. And both scenarios, there are things to be healed, but one pathway is far less painful than the other when it comes to that healing. And so I really feel like when I think about my own journey with how I beat myself to a pulp and, the different shame spirals I would go down, I had a lot of physical health issues very early on in my life that I ended up navigating through early adulthood mostly, right? I had two spinal fusions before the age of, 38, and that's pretty significant, right? And I think a lot of that was like not the spine, right? Not supporting myself and where I was good at supporting others, but not showing up in service of myself. And so the negative thoughts and the things we have literally create emotions in the physical body, and our issues are stored in the tissues of our physical body. And so we quite literally create dis-ease or disharmony within our bodies. And so it's so important for us to be really honest about what we need to look at within ourselves, because we have a lot of power.
We do, and I think that ties so beautifully in with the word sanity, right? Because what is your body telling you? What you aren't feeling well, or you have a chronic ache and pain. This is a message. This is your body is a messenger to what you're not processing, what you haven't dealt with. Maybe it's saying, now I'm ready. Maybe you had stuffed something down for a long time and then you have an ache or a pain, and it's like, I need to look at this because it's impacting my health. And so having a process to go into, what is my achy knee telling me? It's not just that I'm 50 and not feeling well because I'm getting older. It's what is really being illuminated to be processed, released so that you can come into a place of balance and harmony. And I think that there are so often times where whether we're waging war on ourselves with that negative self-talk and the shame, blame, punishment spiral, or in our relationships. I kept getting pulled to this particular situation where I was in such right fighting, such blaming, such judgment that it was multiple years of living in this anger. And then going through these healing processes, on one hand, I want to say it's not one and done, right? There's levels and layers of everything. But on the other hand, when I really surrendered to, I want to heal this, I want this to shift, it did. And to me, it feels like it shifted overnight, although I do understand that it maybe was a more gradual shift out in the 3D of my life, but the feelings shifted overnight because I was able to just go in with full surrender and say, I want to heal this. I want harmony in this situation. I don't want to be waging war anymore, because when you're waging war against another, you're waging war against yourself. right?
Yeah, and vice versa. Like when we're waging war within ourselves, we're often projecting that energy onto other people. And that's when we hurt people. That's when we make choices or decisions that we later regret. We're acting on impulse from a negative emotional space as opposed to taking a step back and processing the emotion and understanding the intuitive message that spirit is trying to give you through that emotion. And I think that's one of the things that we don't learn growing up. We don't learn that our emotions are not good, bad, right, or wrong. They are simply intuitive messages from our soul. And if we listen to all of those emotions, they're always pointing us in the direction of our highest evolution. But what most of us do is we stay thinking about our emotions. So we think about all the reasons we're angry. We think about all the reasons we feel sad. We think about all the reasons we feel X, Y, or Z. And if we're thinking the reasons up for our feelings, we are not feeling our emotions. Feeling emotions happens in the physical body. So when I tell people you got to feel your feelings, I'm speaking to what does the sensation of anger feel like and where is it located in the physical body? So, if you need to feel anger because you feel like you need to speak your truth, you might feel a knot or a lump in the throat in your throat, right? When people are really angry, you might say, "Oh, my blood is boiling." That's the speaking to the sensation, and we need to breathe and through that and really process that to clear it from the physical body before we can really step back to understand from a place of neutrality what that emotion is trying to communicate to us. And I think from that space, that's where we get so much love and understanding because we're in a place of personal sanity and our hearts are much more open to seeing the truth. We can't see the truth when stuck in crazy emotions. We are literally blinded from the truth. We cannot see it. And so we have to encourage one another to really take a deep breath and come back to this place of neutrality instead of reacting from the place of our woundedness, because I really feel like this is so much of what's going on in the collective is people are walking around carrying such heavy weights from this lifetime and previous lifetimes worth of issue, and we are being called to step up our spiritual practices, feel our feelings, understand what they mean so that we come back to a place of personal peace. That is where our power is. Our power is in our peace. Our power is in our presence because that's the place we're creating from. So, to the extent that I think we can encourage people to seek out, how do I reach that sense of inner peace? Maybe for some people it's meditation, maybe for some people it's breath work, maybe for some people, right? It is working with these different modalities. I know for me, I just had my annual reading with you for my astrology for 2025. And even that helps me restore to a place of peace because I had these inklings about what my focus was for this year. And you were like, yep, right on track, right? Health and career is the focus. But it also, in the things that you brought through, are going to really help me to have peace and patience in the moments that I know there are things potentially coming up so that I can help give extra support to myself to come back to that place of peace. And I think that is what all of this and even spirit helping us with these themes and bringing through these messages, like how are we best able to work with these energies for our own evolution, and we send that ripple effect out into the collective. So as we focus on our own evolution, we are positively impacting the collective.
Absolutely. And I think that over and over again in the last few months, but in particular at the end in December and also for the theme of 2025, I keep getting be still.
Mm.
And if you're in a place of reactivity, impulsivity, resistance, fear, anger, just taking a beat to be still is really important.
Yeah.
You may not even have the tools yet to know what to do with all of that, right? If you're just beginning on this path of self exploration and learning how to process your emotions, or even, I had many years of, I took the Divine Family program, and it took many years for me to understand the difference between thinking my emotions and feeling my emotions. What a game changer.
Right.
But thought I was doing, I thought, right? I wasn't feeling, but each was a baby step. And it takes time to unravel some behaviors and habits that we've had for a long time, like thinking our emotions. But one of the things that just keeps coming to the surface for me about how important it is to be still and feel and receive what's happening within your body, that blood boiling feeling or that frustration, is you probably, if you're listening to any other, astrology, spiritual podcast, you're probably hearing repeatedly things like lots of shift in 2025. And there, I believe there are going to be many opportunities for us to kind of go in a space of disbelief. Like, what? That can't be right. Things that question or make us question our reality, or question our belief systems, or question our faith in some of our leaders, or whether they're celebrities or politicians or faith leaders, or just like in your small circle friend group, the people who you kind of admired. I feel like this year is going to bring many opportunities for us to question our realities, and and that might cause reactivity.
Mhm.
That might cause the frustration. You're not who I thought you were. And that causes, shame, blame, victim, all of that stuff. So taking that opportunity to be still, to come into balance and harmony within yourself for your own sanity, for your own health and well being. If you're always approaching whatever big emotion comes up with the wait, be still, let me feel this. What's this bringing up? What do I need to see? And then I love how you said that everything is happening for you, not to you. We don't always know why, right? We don't always know what the for you is, but it is a universal truth that everything is happening for you. So even if you can't see the why, having faith in this is coming up for a reason. This is a mirror that I need to see. This is a limiting belief that's ready to be released. This is a maybe a false idol that I no longer need to see as my North Star.
Mhm.
I think that this is gonna be coming up over and over again in 2025, either within ourselves or in the news cycle, right? We're gonna see this theme of kind of chaotic events happening because people are being belligerent, because some sort of, it's like their reality has been rocked.
Yeah.
And so they're in a place of waging war instead of finding their peace and harmony.
Yeah. And one of the things that Spirit is pointing me to as you're talking about this is a reminder about a message they recently gave me. When we're in times of transition and when we are in, to use your word, times of big shift in our own lives, this might be moving, this might be changing jobs, this might be relationship changes, it could be loss of jobs, it could be loss of relationships, you could be going through retirement, you could be right, the list of transitions is endless that you could be making. But what Spirit has said to me recently is during times of change and during times of transition, we have to be intentional about creating space to be with our emotions. And as humans, we are terrible about creating space because let's be honest, we have learned at the most basic level that when there is a moment of space, we need to pick up our phones and start scrolling through social media. And so we eliminate that space. So we are in a world that is full of distraction. And so if we are not intentional about using that space to go within, even for 5 minutes to take a break and just be like, let me just do a body scan here and let me just notice if my body is calling for attention in any kind of way. Because I know for me, when I was learning how to process my emotion, I had to put a reminder in my phone to tell me to check in with my body because I was that disconnected from my body and from my emotions. And so to use the technology in a helpful way, like use it to help support what you need to check in with ourselves because we are so accustomed to just getting away from ourselves. We are already hardwired to avoid pain. Let's face it. Who wants to lean into pain? Not many of us, but I will admit that we are resisting pain far more than people are leaning into it. But the truth and the irony of that statement is that resisting feeling our feelings actually keeps us in the ick feeling for so much longer than if we just felt the emotion, released it, figured out what we need to know, and move on with our lives. And so, this is my PSA to learn how to feel your feelings in 2025, people, because it really is life changing.
I think it's life changing. I think it's world changing, right? Talking about how that, be the change you want to see, or all those cliche phrases, they're true.
Right.
Your inner reality changes because you're processing your feelings and going deep and getting to know yourself better and bringing more light and love into your being because, or I would say, exposing more of your inner light love that is there and is hidden for some reason that you've blocked from all of these walls that you put up to not be seen. When you do that work, it reverberates out into the collective. And that's why, even though in this conversation, we're talking a lot about individual work, right? That individual processing, that individual transformation, it really is a collective message for the ability of this group of people who are being called in this direction to learn how to process their feelings, to learn how to deal with their emotions, and to kind of drop baggage that no longer serves them. That group of people has global impact. It's not that every single person on the planet needs to know how to do. I mean, yes, it would be great, right? Wonderful. And so we're not there yet. That's okay. Even just the shift that happens in your own world. And then I really think about, I've studied with Sarah Landon. She channels the council. They have such beautiful messages. But one of the things that was so profound when I was studying with her was this concept of as you shift, you don't have to say anything. And people want to know, what are you doing? Right? What why are you brighter? Why are you more at peace? Like, kind of like I'll have what she's having, right? You don't have to shout it from the rooftops. It can be this own internal, but that shift, then it's like one domino and another domino, and it expands and expands because of the work you did on yourself. And then you share as appropriate as people who are truly interested in, like, we share about our journey because it has had such a profound impact on our life. And so I think that's where you and I feel this call to have these podcast conversations, because the shift for the good that has happened in my life since really diving in and starting to get in touch with my emotions and how to cultivate inner peace can't it just cannot be overstated, understated, whatever, however you say it, right? Like, I I cannot describe the level of difference this has made in my life.
I agree. I have a new level of peace. And I think what comes along with being able to find your process to restore your peace is you also connect to this well of strength within that you don't even realize that you have. And so, in the beginning, when I was starting this journey, I just wanted to feel better about myself. I wanted to stop waging war constantly on myself. And I really wanted to find that sense of peace. And as I learned how to find that inner peace, what it evolved into is a knowing that no matter what life throws my way, I know I'm going to get through it. That doesn't mean it's not going to involve pain. That doesn't mean it's not going to involve heartbreak. But I feel so fortified now in my knowing that I have the tools to move through whatever life throws my way in a way that really helps me to love myself, love others, and gives me a great sense of peace in the process that we don't have to, like, I used to marinate in pain for months at a time. And so just being able to be free of that way of living, like how awful in hindsight to kind of reflect back and be like, wow, I just carried that pain and that shame around with me all the time. And there was such heaviness to my life. And now being able to bring myself back to that peace, even if there are things going on in my life, it doesn't weigh me down. It allows me to still move through life with a levity and a connection to source and to my high self so that I feel good about me and about life.
And I think that it's like this and that are both true, right? That doesn't mean there's not bad days or hard days, or you're going to marinate for a day or two, right? Way different than months or years, which is dramatically able to shift your outer reality because you're not bringing it with you everywhere. You're shifting. And I think the thing that I also want to point out, just because of the astrological energies of this year, is we have this. There's a lot of changing of planets, but the one thing, there's a lot of planets in Pisces coming up, which is mystical and limitless and lack of boundaries, but it's also escapism. And so it's just like, note to self, am I seeking an energy to escape my reality, or am I going to go in and process so that my reality can shift? As opposed to I'm just going to disappear from it, because that is also in addition to thinking our emotions, there's also, like you said, we don't, the void goes straight to our phones or to our vices. And so there is definitely that high potential in the first half of the year, in particular, when we have so much in Pisces. And then we have Saturn and Neptune. Neptune is also in Pisces, dissolving boundaries. Saturn is boundaries, but in Pisces. So it's like this boundary, limit, dissolving, escapism. There's this whole like floaty dynamic that is happening. And both of them are going to shift into Aries for a little bit. And Aries is the god of war. So I feel like it just is another angle where you can see this idea of coming into balance and peace versus waging war. And it's like Aries versus Pisces too, like that heat versus that soothing water. And there's nothing wrong with either of them. It's about how do we harness them for our health and well-being, as opposed to how do we have these elements rage against us, because water can do just as much damage as fire. So how do we use these energies to create a sense of well-being and peace and harmony to help us stay sane when there will be lots of shifts in this next year? It's just the energy of the year. I don't think anyone would be surprised by hearing that, but we get the choice of how we want to live through it and come to the end of 2025 feeling like, huh, look what I did. Look, if I look back, look how much I've grown. Look what I've let go of. Look how I've moved forward in a positive way. And potentially that really shows up not just in your inner world, but also very deliberately in your outside 3D world, because that's how it happens, right? External shifts happen when internal shift happens.
Yeah, and we're back to that mirror principle because when we change who we are within ourselves, we start to see that external reflection in our lives. It's a beautiful thing. So, the other thing that is coming to me as you were talking about some of these themes and how important it is to be still, it reminds me of the disbelief in the chaos that you were speaking to earlier. And the word that I keep hearing from spirit is discernment. We have to start questioning what we see in the media. We need to start questioning what messages we're hearing from people. Just because someone says something does not make it a truth. And it is incredibly difficult to be receiving so much different information from different sources. The perpetuation of different propaganda or messages or beliefs. And by the way, this happens in your own family and friend circles where, you have a belief about one right way of doing things, right? For example, at the most basic level, maybe you are a student looking to go to college and the option of not going to college and doing something else isn't even a belief, part of your belief system, because everyone you go to high school with goes to a 4-year college, right? So this isn't just happening in the news and the media. This is happening in our own communities and friend groups. And so we need to be questioning what is right and what is true for us. Our journeys in this lifetime are about finding our right life, not the life that works for everybody else. And so I do believe now that we're in the age of Aquarius, we are all being called to find what our most authentic lives look like for us. And that really requires filtering all of the information that you're receiving through your own guidance system. What is true for one person is not true for you, and that is honored. That does not make them right and you wrong, or vice versa. We are not all meant to be playing the same roles. And so one of the things spirit is pointing me to in this moment is they want you to think of yourself as playing the role of you in the play of life, right? You are not to be playing the same role as the person next to you. And so we've got to stop comparing. We have to stop the group think. We need to be taking in information, getting curious about it, and understanding what feels true for us, what feels true about the information, what does not feel true about information. Your intuition is your superpower. And so really embrace that word discernment and look at where you need to apply your own personal lens of discernment to yourself and your learning and the information that's coming in around you.
I think that's so important to also to realize that for most of us, we have to get still to do that. In order to really think or process what our body really feels about that, what our intuition really feels about that, especially if you're not in the practice of feeling your intuition coming through you as you walk through life, to be able to take that moment and say, okay, but is this my truth? How do I feel about this? And sit with that and let it marinate, let it simmer. And then as you get more practice at really feeling what your truth feels like in your body, you can maybe feel that come through in the moment as you're walking through life. But if you're not in the practice of that, the importance of taking the breath, taking the time to say, how do I really feel about this before any actions are taken?
We do not need to rush down any roads, right? And so it's really important for us to feel very clear about whatever steps we are taking and how we move forward. When we get excited, other emotions tend to allow us to react impulsively to things. And when we're excited, we just want to run towards the thing that brings excitement. But we also want to make sure that we're feeling really clear within ourselves. And the way that we learn how to trust ourselves is by making sure that our bodies are clear, that our emotions are clear, because then we can really trust what we're feeling. When we're all clogged by other emotions, we're not clear. And so that's when we start to doubt ourselves. And so I think all of that, being clear, knowing your emotions, knowing thyself, being still, are going to be really important tools to grasp as we move into 2025.
Yeah. I think that this really speaks to the empaths out there. Those of us that are highly sensitive, those of us that walk the empath life. Is that emotion mine or
Yeah.
is it someone else's? Is that belief system mine or is it someone else? And getting to know your truth when many empaths have spent their entire life feeling everyone,
Yeah.
being able to discern and filter and get clear of what's yours is going to be there are going to be so many opportunities for that in 2025. And that process is what is going to help you be a base of sanity, of balance and harmony, which will be, at least for me, the space I'd rather be in.
Agreed. Agreed.
And I think just one more reminder is to harness the power of grounding into the earth through all of this, right? So yesterday I spent some time at the beach and just, that healing vibration of nature. Whenever you have that opportunity, whether you're actually physically going on a hike or you're just taking yourself on a guided meditation into nature, that is such a powerful way to soothe and calm and slow you down a little bit to be able to feel into what you need to feel. So you're not like flying off the handle.
Yeah, and I think it's a good reminder to people, this is why being still is important because we need to just slow down and still ourselves enough to pay attention to what is happening within our body. And so I think, it would be helpful for people as a result of this podcast to start to look at within yourself and question, what are your avoidance strategies? What are your go to vices or your go to modes of distraction so that you can prepare for this energy that might be supporting escapism? And how can you help yourself be mindful about where you need to be still and what the messages of those emotions are actually communicating to you and what processes or support you might need to facilitate your own growth and peace in your evolution?
Yeah, absolutely. And even though we have these themes to talk about with the collective, your messages are unique to you. Your experience is unique to you. So having that, cultivating that unique practice for yourself is so important. And then also seeking guidance. If you just can't get at what's, or you can feel it, but you just can't figure out how to release it or what it's trying to tell you, seek the guidance, whether it's getting a reading, pulling cards, looking at your astrology, going deep into any of those practices to help you over the hump, because this is not intended to be a like a solitary journey. We are a collective. We have resources, we have people or connections in our life that can support us through this as we are learning how to get more and more in touch with the love that we truly are.
So, thank you all so much, as always, for listening. Please like, share, subscribe to this video if you like what you see and hear, because this really helps us get this content into the ears of those who need to hear its messages the most. And so, we will be back again next month with another thematic energy update. And in the meantime, please continue to join Catherine and I for her monthly astrological lunation updates. And you can also expect more solo episodes from me. So until next time, bye for now.